you everyone for joining us this afternoon. For those of you who are new or don't know, I'm Nicole from FAN. And today we're joined by my colleague, Andy Eves-Brown, who is giving us a fantastic update on the Turbine project. Before we commence, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land in which we gather and pay respects to their elders past, present and future. As a bit of background, the Turbine project has been a long-held vision of FAN and the wider community. And I think probably what's great to share is just how that vision has come about and where it's come from. Andy will give an update on where we're at, but most importantly, we're really excited to share that tenancy EOIs are open. So post this meeting, we'll also send a link to all of the information about how you can learn more as well. Also, as a bit of background to FAN's role within the Turbine project. So FAN as an organisation, we're one of the lead submittants for the various lots of funding that we've been successful in securing. And the vision itself for the precinct has very much come out of the start of FAN, which Andy was very key and key in driving. So this is really a full circle to where we are. So FAN is a key stakeholder, also a key service delivery partner for the project. And what this means is that through this particular precinct and project, we're able to really shine a spotlight on what we do here as a region, but also create some further opportunities for our members. Tangibly, that means through things like the Grow National program, which I noticed a couple of our members online are actually part of. So suffice to say, there's been a lot of phenomenal work done by many people to get the project to where it is today, not least withstanding Andy, who has, as I said, been with us from the outset and now joining us to bring this vision to life. So Andy, I'll hand over to you. If you want to, did you want to take questions throughout or maybe leave it in the end, or we can put them in the chat line as well?
Yeah, happy to take questions as they come up. And Nicole, if you can monitor who's got their hands up, I'll run through.
Excellent. Okay, well, over to you, Andy. I'm going to mute myself as well because it's just become lunchtime here at the Innovation Centre and everyone's eating delicious food, which is making me hungry. So close the door.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us on intro to Turbine. As Nicole mentioned, this project and program has been on the cards for a good long time, probably since 2013, which I'll go through some of that history. Sorry, just trying to get a computer to go forward. But before I do start, just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Cubby Cubby and Jinnabara people, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. To give you an overview of the Turbine project, Turbine is a not-for-profit organisation that has really facilitated this Australia's first collaborative food and beverage manufacturing, education and innovation centre. Those three aspects are really key to this project. But really where it all started is that collaborative manufacturing and actually how can that help small businesses and SMEs grow. And as I mentioned, that really goes right back to 2013 when Sunshine Coast Regional Council produced their REDS, their Regional Economic Development Strategy. That really identified 7 high-value industries within the region, one of those being food and ag. And out of that, I was lucky enough, I was COO at Gourmet Garden at the time, and I was asked to be chair of the Food and Agribusiness Task Force. Being chair of that task force was really a great opportunity to start understanding food and ag in the region. So there was 3 key initiatives that came out of the task force. One was to understand how big the industry was. And still to this day, we continue to do, UniSC does a report to understand where where it's been and how it's growing. So back in 2013, the region sat at around 436 million. It now has just gone past $1 billion, which is amazing and fantastic in that 10-year period. The second initiative that came out of the task force was very much, now we know who's in the industry and how big that industry is actually get that industry to work together and collaborate. And that was really the birth of FAN. So myself and a few others from Jackie Wilson-Smith from Gourmet Garden, and then a few others off the task force, including Julie Shelton, all joined together, and we founded FAN. The Food and Agribusiness Network, really with that opportunity that it was a network for industry, run by industry, and actually to bring that industry together to collaborate and be that soft infrastructure. FAN, through both Emma Greenhatch, that has been critical in the whole Turbine project, and now Nicole, has really then driven that whole agenda of collaboration and working together. The third initiative that came out of the task force was really driven on the back of understanding Gourmet Garden and how big Gourmet Garden had got. And by that time, we were employing around 200 staff. And it was really an opportunity to sort of say, actually, wouldn't it be great for this region if we had another 5 Gourmet Gardens? And 5 Gourmet Gardens bringing more jobs, more benefit for the region, but benefit for this industry. And so as a team, we looked at it and said, actually, how could we help produce another 5 Gourmet Gardens? And it very much came down to actually the amount of really entrepreneurial and innovation happening in the region was outstanding, but how could we help those businesses grow from small to medium to be successful? And that really came about with, as Gourmet Garden, we helped, and as COO, we used to help some of the local businesses. If Tim from Epicurean Food, he used to ring us up, and if they were having trouble with machines or wanted some support, that we used to provide that. Also, Lloyd from Country Chef, we used to have lots of contact with and see how we could help and build that, and really help those businesses grow through the scale of Gourmet Garden. And so it was really that whole process of collaborative manufacturing that we said, actually, if we had a precinct where people could actually share infrastructure, so share services, share resources, we may be able to get more and more of those businesses through what is, we will call, and I will move on to our Valley of Growth. And so the Valley of Growth, what a lot of venture capitalists you'd know this as, would call this the Valley of Death. Really don't like that terminology, because ultimately nearly all small businesses, especially in food and ag, will go through this growth curve and go through this Valley of Growth, where in the early stages, that sort of that ideation, proof of concept, where it's very much a founding team, limited resources, but really driving that market testing, what that pilot plant might look like, what those prototypes might look like. And then people make the decision to go, right, I'm going to scale and I'm going to grow. But ultimately that costs money from it's a capital intensive process. It requires resources, and usually puts businesses into an area or a period of not so much decline. The business is still growing, but from a profit perspective and a cash flow perspective, puts a lot of pressure on the business. And that's during that commercialization phase and that full production phase. And that's when there is a huge need for capital. I've put a top-heavy organization or a resource-hungry organization. And that's where you almost have to over-recruit before you get to the point where you can, sorry, just go back, that you over-recruit, that you need the engineering manager before you need the engineers. You need the R&D manager before you need the R&D staff. And so that really puts the project under, or the company under, a lot of stress, both financially and emotionally. And so what we want to try and do from a Turbine perspective is that we can actually try and help bridge that Valley of Death, or that Valley of Growth. And and assist companies as they scale from an SME to a successful business by making sure that it's not as capital intensive, making sure that the resources are available. And to give you an idea, luckily or unluckily, I've been in that valley 3 times. A company in the UK that at one stage during COVID tipped the $19 billion cap valuation. But we sat in that valley for a good 5 to 6 years. When people look from a Sunshine Coast perspective, they always look at Gourmet Garden as being a massive success, and it is a massive success. But we still sat in that valley of growth for a good 7 years. And during that period, the business lost almost $16 million in that valley of growth. And so even though we have some very successful companies, they've all been through that process. And from a government perspective, there is usually a lot of support at that front end with that traditional hub support, where the likes of Cooper's Plains or SIFT now in WA, that will actually help people take their product to market, prototype it. But there's a bit of a void from a support perspective in that period of growth. But then when you're successful, there tends to be, again, a lot of support, both from government, but also from those organizations and banks that are there to help to support you. But when you get to that end stage, that successful stage, that is where you tend to have a management team in place. You'll have a board of directors in place, very much go through process systemization and really that whole repeat business and being a secure, successful business. So hopefully people on the line, you'll know roughly where you are in that whole process, but it's always interesting that period in the middle, that people feel that when you're in there that you're alone and others aren't going through it. But I can assure you that all businesses, especially in that food and beverage space, will go through some level of valley of growth. And so that's where Turbine is really there to help and assist, and assist in that growth process. And we really have 6 key pillars. One is that it will be a flexible scale-up manufacturing space. And that's where there are small tenancies where we can help and assist people to grow by providing, one, the infrastructure, as in the small space that can be rented, so it becomes an OpEx rather than a CapEx. That there is shared services. So all food and beverage, or most food and beverage companies, will need in some form steam, chilling, wastewater treatment, air. And by being able to provide that infrastructure, again, makes it less in capital intensive. And then also from a resources perspective of getting to the point where, hopefully, if there's small businesses that they might need an engineering manager once a week, or they may only need engineers when there's an issue, is that if Turbine can actually employ a number of engineering manager or engineers that can actually be shared across those tenancies and across those businesses, ultimately means that the cost to scale is a lot less, and the opportunity or the ability for success is a lot higher. And so if there's, on that valley of growth, if there was 10 companies that were standing on the edge, usually at this moment in time, there's around 5 of them that will probably turn around and go, actually, this is too risky, and it's not something that I want to do. And then 5 of them that are into that valley will probably, statistics say that only 1 or 2 will actually make it to a successful business. And so if we can help and try and make sure all 10 of those companies can get across that valley, we're going to end up with a lot more successful companies on the coast, a lot more jobs on the coast, and a bigger benefit for the region. And so that's how those scale-up tenancies will work, is that it's a supporting infrastructure. On there, they'll be supporting warehousing. All businesses need warehouses. And again, similar to the shared services, the bigger the warehouse, the more efficient it becomes. And so sharing space and having a shared warehouse will assist in that efficiency of growth. A collaborative R&D centre, very much focused on that. This is an innovation centre that we want tenants and we want people to come into Turbine that have that vision of what's the food of the future. What are those good for you foods that we want to help and promote, and those good for you foods where generally there are always shortcuts that people can take to make cheaper food, but ultimately you usually sacrifice something which is the nutritional benefit of the food or how good that food is for you. So if we can actually support companies to ensure that we are nurturing the nutritional benefits of food, and we are getting food all the way from the paddock to the plate in as fresh a form as possible, then again, that's where innovation and R&D will help within the centre. There will be a major beverage contract manufacturing facility in the centre as well. Again, there's a market gap in Queensland for contract brewing. Over the whole country, there's about 65 million litres of contract beverages consumed. Out of that, around 20 to 25 million litres of that is in Queensland. But all those products that are consumed, that have been produced in a contract beverage facility previously, all come from Sydney, Melbourne, or WA. And so there's a real market need that Turbine's hoping to fill, which is to have that contract beverage production. And what that will do, it will help businesses on the coast and in the region that need and in Queensland that need contract beverage production. But also that ability to innovate and new ideas will be driven through QDA, that is intended to be that anchor tenant. As well as the manufacturing space, there's office space. So Turbine will be a home for FAN. We'll have shared office space, and the intention is to have 3 floors of office space where we'll have the amenities for tenants on the ground floor, office staff or office space for tenants on the 2nd floor, and then that 3rd floor really to be open for support services, people that can help again small SMEs grow and help the precinct as a whole, whether it's venture capitalists, whether it's marketing experts, whether it's hygiene equipment suppliers that are all there that are available and easy access for tenants. And then probably one of the most important pillars for Turbine is that skills and education centre. That is where, again, there's probably 3 aspects to the education. One is being able to demonstrate and show school-age children and school leavers what a great career you can have in food and beverage, and how secure a food and beverage career can be. Everyone needs to eat. The whole idea of bringing manufacturing and sovereignty back to Australia really makes food and agribusiness an exciting career to have. And so really demonstrates children what the possibilities are. From a tertiary education perspective, be a facility that can offer on-site training. One of the biggest challenges especially in universities is getting students to have internships, and having the ability to have a number of companies all together, and for Turbine to take that burden of looking after an intern off businesses, but actually be able to provide an educational pathway for students where they can experience different businesses, they can experience different products, and also different parts of that business, whether it's marketing, whether it's business, whether it's logistics, or whether it is manufacturing. And then finally, that education is down to educating other businesses. So other businesses in the region, other businesses in Queensland, where Turbine really wants to be that exemplar of what good manufacturing practice looks like. It will be at that stage of a business where it will be HACCP approved, it will be BRC approved, it will have all the OH&S protocols and processes in place. It will be a net zero, or working towards a net zero manufacturing site. So we can be an example of what sustainable manufacturing looks like, and from day one, the intention is that we'll be using all green electricity and moving towards a net zero environment. So those are the 6 pillars. To really give you an idea of, and just to summarize that, it really is Australia's first purpose-built end-to-end food and beverage manufacturing education precinct, unlocking that growth and accelerating innovation, but really does provide that world-class services and advanced manufacturing, best of breed. It reduced costs by sharing space, sharing infrastructure, sharing resources, a greater speed to market to try and make that valley of growth as short and as shallow as possible. And by getting businesses from ideation through commercialization to a successful business as quick as possible, increases that whole global competitiveness. But where are we up to so far? And everyone's heard about Turbine for a long time, and there has been along the road a number of attempts. At whether it was we started off trying something in 2015 in Yandina, and then at the Big Pineapple. But then during COVID, Emma Greenhatch came to myself and as head of ECDev for Sunshine Coast Council and said, we may have another opportunity to get this precinct underway. And that was through part of the MMI grants, which I'll go through in a moment. But ultimately, we've landed on a site on the Sunshine Coast down in Caloundra Skip Stage 2, Sunshine Coast Industrial Park Stage 2. The great thing about it, it is zoned appropriately. It's zoned for high impact, which is really important because the thresholds for what you're allowed to make in manufacturing actually makes most food industry on the coast not zoned correctly. If you're producing any more than 4 pallets of product a week, then you actually need to be in a high impact industrial zone, and there's very few of those on the coast. All the lots are fully serviced, great access to logistics through the Bruce Highway, through Caloundra CBD around the corner, great access to labour over in Aura, close to the Sunshine Coast Airport, close to the port, and more importantly, close to other like businesses that are starting to grow as a natural cluster around this area. And so down to if you look at the picture on the screen, the site where the Turbine will be, down to the left-hand side it's a stone's throw from Country Chef. Just up the road is Kilcoy Global Foods. Across the tree line is Brouhaha Brewery and Montville Coffee. So starting to get a real natural cluster between businesses. And where we're up to from a process is we are just about to get our DA. We are hoping that we'll have our DA this week or next week. That was submitted back in October. We have engaged Energex and have a security of supply of power. We've engaged Unity Water, and so we know what our requirements are from a waste and a sewage perspective, and done all the planning for drainage. And all those processes tend to take a lot of time and also a lot of negotiations. And where the grant comes into this whole process, and so many of you would have heard that Turbine did apply for 2 grants through the federal government. One was MMI translation. Fantastic result, and lucky enough to secure $8.9 million through MMI translation. To then also put in an application for MMI collaboration, which is again really the whole ethos of Turbine, which is how do we, by working together, collaborate and build more successful futures, and manage to secure another 33 million through that process. And so that grant funding is going towards the overall project and the build. The project itself is around $134 million project. And so that 42 million is around a third of the project. The rest of that funding then comes from the developer that will build and buy the land, the tenants that will bring in equipment. And more importantly on that is, the great thing is that any business that comes into Turbine and takes up some of the EOIs at the moment that are out, any capital that business brings. So if a business wants to move to Turbine, and argument's sake, they need to buy a $1 million piece of equipment to expand, then we can use some of that grant funding to help match that investment. We've also been able to match some of that investment through state government, and we're in final stages of negotiating some grants through state government and talking to local government about what opportunities they may have to help support this precinct. We're at a stage where we have a call option deed out on the land that is currently owned by EDQ. They'll bring the rest of that industrial park to market in the next coming months. From a developer's perspective, we have heads of agreement with developers. That will be on a 20-year period for Turbine, but for the smaller tenancies, really looking to offer a 5-year options. And then larger anchor tenants will be more on the 20-year period. And it's fully designed and ready to build. So as Nicole mentioned earlier, we are out on a tenancy EOI at the moment. So there's approximately 10,000 square meters of space, if you include office and manufacturing space, up for rent. And so really encouraging people to have a look at the information that's on the website under the leasing opportunities and fill out EOIs if you're interested. But it's a really compelling proposition where not only taking advantage of the infrastructure, the shared services and the shared resources, but also having access to some already pre-approved government grants. I probably won't run through, well, I might try I won't run through the fly through because it will take me out of the presentation, but really encourage people to go onto the website, go onto the leasing opportunities, and you can see a whole fly through of the site. That is a true 3D model of the architect's drawings and the design where we've got to at the moment, where all the architects and structure and civils are all being completed, and that we're now in the process of just finalizing the hydraulics and the fire and dangerous goods. What's this project and why is this project so important for this region? So it's a $136 million project in the food and beverage sector. It's over 150 jobs that will be created through the precinct, and bring around $500 million of economic benefit to the region in the first 2 years. That's during its construction phase and during its first phase of operation. Then going forward, it will bring around $250 million of economic benefit to this region, equating to about $2 billion over the next 10 years. The flow-on effect of bringing that sort of level of economic benefit to the region has a flow-on effect to indirect jobs. So the estimate is around 1,500 indirect jobs within the region and within Queensland. So a fantastic opportunity for the Sunshine Coast and a fantastic opportunity for Southeast Queensland. As I said, dates where we're at the moment, we're currently having approvals. DA should be out this next couple of weeks. Energex and Unity Water are all in line. We're out for the EOI with tenants. That closes on the 24th of May. And we've had a great early stream of applicants come through already. Developers, heads of agreement are currently being executed. We'll go into negotiations for AFLs with hopefully commencement on site within the next 3 to 6 months. Expecting a completion of the build is between a 9 and 12-month build. So we're looking at mid 2025 for the facility to be up and ready with fit out and fully operational. You can see on the screen that is a plan of the site. Just gives a bit of an indication, an idea of the tenancies, the warehousing space. When you look at it, it looks, if you look at one of the tenancies, such as tenancy 1, that's 300 square meters. Might look small in the picture, but this is a massive manufacturing site. It is 17,000 square meters in total. For people to put that into perspective, anyone knows the gourmet garden site out at Palm Woods, that is 4,000 square meters. So this is ultimately 4 times the size of the gourmet garden site. And then when you take one of those tenancies being 300 square meters, when you then add into it from a business perspective, 300 square meters of added value space would equate really to a business of about 600 square meters. And so that's when you add in the shared services that are all down in the bottom right-hand corner. The orange area at the top is the office space. Again, looks quite small in the picture, but each of those floors are 600 square meters. We've then got warehouse space, both chilled and frozen warehouse and docking. And then the area in the middle with the production lines is just an indicator at the moment of a packing hall. That could be split into 1, 2, potentially 3 tenancies, depending on what comes out the EOI. And so from an EOI perspective, we're very flexible. We've got an idea of what the site's going to look like. From a DA perspective, we've got the outer shell all confirmed, but actually what the final design for the internals will all be dependent on the tenants that come forward and the conversations that we have. And then down the bottom end of the picture, you can see the wastewater treatment site. From a food and beverage perspective, this is always one of those large expenses. And so again, that is funded through the government funding, will be appropriately sized for the size of the precinct. And at this moment in time, we're intending that to be an anaerobic digester system, which again, from a sustainability perspective, really adds to the credentials that it will produce biogas that can be used to run the boilers. It uses a lot less electricity than conventional aerobic systems. So, as I mentioned before, we really want this to be an example of great manufacturing practice, but great sustainability, and being in a UNESCO biosphere of the Sunshine Coast. It's really important that we continue to try and amplify the whole biosphere and the triple helix of that biosphere of being great for the community, great for the economy, and great for the environment. I would like to just reach out and acknowledge all our partners in this project so far. And so huge support from Australian government with the grant funding, and this project really would not be moving forward without their help and support. Support from the state government, local council, and the RDA that has always been very supportive of the program. And then of the original founder groups and tenants that we've been having conversations with now for 2 to 3 years. So Dula, who is a flavor house out of Europe, a $1 billion business in Europe, but looking to help and support the whole R&D facilities and processes on site. UniSC, which will be our academic lead. TAFE for all the tertiary education and courses that we'll be able to run through Turbine. As I said, the Food and Agribusiness Network, that without them, this project wouldn't have been initiated. QDA, that will be the anchor tenant contract brewer, and then all the supporting industry groups and associations below, such as CSIRO, FABA, which is the Food and Beverage Accelerator. So we've had some great conversations with the FABA team out of UQ and what Turbine may be able to bring to the whole industry. And then Turbine and FAN are both part of this Australian Food Innovation Network. That's a network that connects in all the cluster groups around the country, but also the academic institutions associated with those. And the CRC, which is a Future Foods. Again, all these guys have been extremely supportive up till now. We are still trying to get to what we call our starting line, which is when we can turn a sod. But it's looking very likely that will be in the next 3 to 6 months. And so really exciting project, fantastic for the region, fantastic for the industry, and fantastic for South East Queensland. So if there are any, if you'd like to contact me outside of this webinar, then please use the QR code. There is our website that has all the information about the leasing options on, but also open to any questions that anyone might have right now. I see we have something in the chat.
Oh, that was just me talking to myself. I've just said we'll share the links to all of this information to everyone online after this as well. But and in the chat there is also the direct link to the leasing information. So, any questions from anyone at the moment? Everyone's still on mute. No. Rightio.
So as we say, just encourage everyone to look at the information on the website. The opportunities within Turbine are extremely compelling. So please reach out, and happy to answer any questions and talk through any queries.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks, guys. Look forward to seeing you all in person soon.
Welcome to Turbine, Australia's groundbreaking collaborative food and beverage manufacturing precinct, where innovation meets scale under one roof. Imagine a space designed to empower manufacturers, offering in-house research and development, cutting-edge education and training facilities, and advanced manufacturing capabilities. Turbine is more than just a facility. It's a hub that enhances local expertise, assists businesses in scaling, and provides a collaborative ecosystem to encourage growth.
Turbine's really there to provide those shared services, and not just the physical space, but the infrastructure, as in chillers, boilers, wastewater systems, but then the soft infrastructure, such as the human resources, where people can actually share HR, engineering, R&D, QA across a number of businesses.
The Sunshine Coast's food and beverage sector is about to experience a game-changing transformation. Turbine will break down barriers for small and medium-sized businesses, fostering an environment where growth is not just possible, but inevitable. But it's not just about business, it's about jobs. Over 400 jobs will be created during construction, and once operational, Turbine will sustain approximately 150 high-value manufacturing and business roles. The impact extends far beyond job creation. Turbine's project partners are projected to generate around $250 million in revenue, benefiting industries across the region and boosting the economy by $2 billion over the next 10 years. Turbine is the future of collaborative manufacturing, a commitment to the success of small and medium-sized enterprises in the food and beverage sector. Join us at Turbine, where we're not just making products, we're creating opportunities, fostering growth, and transforming the landscape of food and beverage manufacturing.